race?
Well, he's had a couple of races now where he's shown very strongly, and today in qualifying, right up there on the second row. And really, NASCAR racing without a Petty and winner's circle ain't it, boys. So we'll be rooting for him, and I know thousands of fans here will be in around the country. So he's in there with a good chance today, and he really needs just a bit of luck to break into it.
You'll recall that a year ago, you saw on CBS a dramatic finish here, Neil Bonnet coming to the finish line inches, well, a few feet in front of Richard Petty. This is how they looked 1 year ago finish line when Neil Bonnet pulled the big upset. Petty hopes to do that kind of thing today to someone else, but for sure be in first place. In the pits for today's action is Brock Yates.
Thanks, Ken. Sensational day for racing here in Ontario. Yeah, talk about King Richard. He has a good chance today, but this man, Cale Yarborough, is going to have an awful lot to say whether or not King Richard returns to his throne. He's sitting on the pole, as David said, a record-shattering speed, almost 2 miles an hour faster than the all record. He's won 30% of the Grand National season, and he is definitely the man to beat this afternoon. Next to him, Bobby Allison, car 15, winner of the Daytona 500 this year, another strong contender. And let's not forget two guys way back in the 40-car field. Two young men who are fighting for a very special prize. Why not tell us a little bit more about that, Ken?
Indeed, you're right, Brock. There is a great battle further back today. It's worth $50,000 for Rookie of the Year honors. It's decided between Roger Hamby and Ronnie Thomas, and we'll follow that duel throughout the day. Let's take a look at the course. From the start line, down into turn number 1, fastest part of the track. That's a 9-degree turn, as they all are. Short 600-foot straightaway to turn 2 at about 130 miles per hour. Back straightaway, they really sail down, have to use a lot of brake into turn number 3. Another short straight into a 75-foot wide main straightaway back in front of the grandstand. Fastest part of the course, about 180 miles per hour. The field organizing for the start of the race, and to give the command to fire the engine, one of CBS Sports' own.
I want to wish all the drivers a very and successful race. God bless them all. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
And as Phyllis George brings the field to life, that's Lady Janet Guthrie. Her car, number 68, is qualified back in the 15th position. The field beginning to roll down for the start of the event. Let's check the start. The 3-time and first man to win it 3 times successively in NASCAR, Cale Yarborough. Flanking him, post position number 2, a former winner of this event in 1974, Bobby Allison. And in third starting position, the man, Richard Petty himself. Starting 4th is the Tiger. This is Darrell Waltrip in car 88. The 5th position is Donnie Allison, the brother of Bobby Allison, who just won the last Grand National race at Atlanta. And starting beside him is the Silver Fox, 3-time Grand National champion, David Pearson. Then back in the 7th position is car number 72, the former national champion from Ellaby, North Carolina, and Detroit, Michigan, Benny Parsons. And flanking him, the 1975 LA Times Charities 500 winner, that's Buddy Baker. Now let's take a look at the rest of the starting field as the cars move between the first and second turns of this 2.5-mile track. The difference in qualifying has been a difference of 9 miles per hour between the car on the pole and the 40th position starter for today. Now that battle for Rookie of the Year honors, notice that Roger Hamby is qualified back in row 13 with car number 17. Hamby will start 25th, and Ronnie Thomas, who currently is number 1 in the rookie standings, has qualified 32nd back in the 16th row. The man on the pole, Cale Yarborough, makes us think it's going to be a very fast race. He broke the old track record of 154.9 miles per hour for 1 lap. He scorched this track at 156.190 miles per hour, and we're getting set for the start. We have a problem here on the start, David. Cale Yarborough's car, number 11, the pole position automobile, has broken down, and that's Cecil Gordon of Horseshoe, North Carolina, number 24, bringing him back to the pit area.
Well, I've seen some camaraderie in racing before, but never anything like that where a driver's been actually pushed back to the pits.
Now you see the pace car horn indicating to the field there'll be 1 more lap before the field is turned loose in this 500-mile race that concludes the 1978 racing season. Yarborough is coming in. We don't know what the problem is. Brock Yates down there hoping to get a report. One guy right through the side of the car in a hurry.
Well, the car was obviously completely powerless and just drifted in, so it could be electrical because it could be fuel.
Let's go to Brock.
Ignition problem forced him into the pits, and miraculously it was Cecil Gordon, one of the back markers, that pushed him around and made it possible for him to continue.
Distributive problem they're reporting on the car. Of 10 times the winner this year, but already following to 40th position. He may go a lap down the field coming to turn number 4 as we get set to begin this 500-mile race here on CBS. Chip Warren holding the field back. You're watching the starter as he is about to drape the green flag over 39 cars. Richard Petty is pulled up. He is now on the point for the start. Remember, Petty now driving a Chevrolet rather than a Dodge. The race is underway. And look at that start. What an incredible sight going to turn number 1. Who will it be in front? Still side by side. Cale Yarborough's automobile is running. He's all the way back in 40th position, David, but he is away.
Well, as long as he doesn't go that dreaded lap down, because on a 2.5-mile track, it's an awful job to get back that lap, but he's away and he's not going to lose a lap.
It's about a minute a lap around this track, and on the back straightaway, look at this land rush for the first position. Everybody into it. Waltrip, there's Pearson way down low in number 21. 4 cars wide into turn 3. David Pearson, 3-time national champion. The Silver Fox goes out in front. And they're still trying to make them 3 wide as they come in that short straightaway. Absolutely incredible first lap. 3 deep through turn number 4. As they come down to the line, they're still 3 wide, about 4 columns back. That's Waltrip on the inside, Petty in the middle, and up on the outside goes Bobby Allison.
Bobby Allison, who clipped the wall there coming off turn 4 onto the start-finish straight, seems to have taken a bit of a lead there, quite a large lead for this race so far. Darrell Waltrip followed closely behind. There's Cale Yarborough pulling up right at the back still.
Cale Yarborough trying to get himself collected and get back in this race. He needs a caution flag badly. There are your leaders. Bobby Allison out in front. He is challenged by Franklin, Tennessee's Waltrip. 1 car going out early. That's the alfalfa farmer from Carruthers, California. Ray Elder, number 32. His engine erupting out there. Meanwhile, look at this battle for the lead, David.
Well, they're going into these turns, of course, as you said earlier, Ken, they're only 9-degree bank. They're not used to that sort of thing. And look at that, too, and Richard Petty trying to make it 3 abreast through them. That's some driving on these relatively flat turns.
And on this straightaway, fastest part of the course, Richard Petty's going for the lead. Richard Petty goes out in front, and down the inside, Lenny Pond is going to second. A wholesale change of positions in the main straightaway.
Yeah, Lenny Pond has done well. He's pulled up from 10th place on the grid.
Meanwhile, Bobby Allison is running third. Petty out in front by about 1 car length as they clear turn number 2. Back straightaway. And they have a tremendous draft going here. They just seem to overhaul each other, David. Look at Pond moving for the lead. Lenny Pond, the Virginian, down on the inside. He challenges Petty.
I thought he was going to take Bobby Allison with him then, but Bobby hung back there. Although he's very, very quick coming off the corners. Look at that already. He's made, look at the ground he's making on that short chute between 3 and 4.
Very tricky turn for some reason. Turn number 4 in front of these grandstands. There isn't much wind blowing, and you can really sail down this straightaway, as you just saw. Here they are, 3 wide again. Bobby Allison to the middle. Now Lenny Pond relents a bit, pulls in behind Petty. Waltrip back there in 4th. David Pearson in 5th. 12 cars running less than a second apart. Petty way wide in turn number 1. Whoa, that's some kind of racing, David.
Talk about the meat and the sandwich there. Poor old Lenny Pond jammed right up against the wall there by Bobby Allison. It's very unusual to see these cars going around these flat turns. So many abreast, too, and obviously we've seen 3 abreast. Here
comes Waltrip challenging on the inside. He takes 2 automobiles, and Pearson way down low, sweeping by 1, 2, almost 3 automobiles. And then losing ground up in turn number 3.
Well, it's difficult when he's so tight on the line going in to make a good job of that corner, so he has to give away a bit.
Richard Petty out in front. Boy, he looks great today. He's lost 43 straight races. He hopes to put it all together this afternoon, and racing fans throughout America hope he pulls one off shortly. This could be the day.
Just back there, we had a beautiful shot of turn 4 from the back, and you could see the smoke coming off the tires of at least 3 of those cars, including Richard Petty's.
Slide and glide out there.
Yeah. When you start sliding these cars, they weigh nearly 4,000 pounds. It's a lot of machinery to get out of hand.
Here is Richard Petty in front. Lenny Pond appropriating second position still another time. And right behind him comes an absolute chain gang of automobiles. There's Pond pulling up on Petty, and then comes Bobby Allison in third, back at turn 3. For turn 4. And into this straightaway, you're going to see that kind of maneuvering which only these Grand National cars can do so competitively. Here we have 4 cars together, and then a break of about 3 car lengths back to another pack of 4 automobiles, and a challenge for the lead still another time. We have the clock on as Lenny Pond retakes the lead. It won't matter so much about getting an individual man for the lap, but let's just follow this first pack of cars and see how quickly they're coming around this course. Pond is in front. Petty is rim riding up in turn number 2.
He sure is rim riding. He was awful close to the wall there, coming from 1 to 2. He's retaken second place off Bobby Allison. Darrell Waltrip's coming up behind him and using the combined draft of Petty and Pond.
Being in the middle of those drafts, there's got to be a lot of fun, David.
It's a lot of fun. It really moves the car around a tremendous amount, and of course it just sucks the car along in the most unbelievable fashion.
Here we are back in turn number 4. Lenny Pond looking good. Remember, he won at Talladega, Alabama earlier this year on the world's fastest track. Flipping down the main straightaway, we'll have a time for you for 1 lap on this pack of automobiles as Allison drops low. Well, there you see it. Just about a minute. 149 mile an hour toot. That's not bad.
Bad for Sunday afternoon drivers, it really.
Not really at all. Richard Petty in second, and still high and wide through those corners. He seems to be able to go where the others can't. That's the old Petty out there today. Reminds you of Daytona when he rides the tri-oval, just inches from the outside of the track. Not many other folks go out there.
He certainly seems to have a very great liking for those walls, rather like Mario Andretti when he used to go tire testing in Indy a long time ago.
Richard Petty is back in front. Bobby Allison going to second. Darrell Waltrip into third. Lenny Pond high on the outside as they come down into turn 3. Here they are in turn number 4, and Petty is losing ground. The Thunderbird of Bobby Allison just sneaks a peek at first place there in that short 600-foot straightaway. Oh, talk about speed and talk about competition. Look at that. That's just incredible. It's turn 1, Petty in front, Allison in second, and Lenny Pond retaking third position from David Pearson.
And Darrell Waltrip, who's up by the wall there. This is a pretty good old race here. It's a pretty low bank track, and there's Bobby Allison. I'm sorry, Bobby. Making ground on Richard Petty in the draft down that long back straight.
We have a caution coming out. Steve Pfeiffer of San Francisco has spun his automobile, and David, they're racing back to the flag. There goes David Pearson down below Lenny Pond as they fight for third position here. They're racing back to the flag.
Well, David Pearson keeps on trying to take that low line going into turn 3, and it just doesn't work. And what a race to the flag. That is what's called tailgating out here in California.
Richard Petty comes back to the flag. Here they come for third spot. You couldn't get much closer than that. On the restart, it'll be Petty in front, and Allison, who swept by him, will be in second. Cale Yarborough catching up here with this caution flag. And if you don't think it was close for third, well, there's a trifecta for you.
Very effective trifecta, and also terribly effective for Cale.
We want to remind you that we have a new look CBS Sports Spectacular coming your way beginning
of the day, created by Steve Pfeiffer. Spinning, he continued, but they wanted to check the track. And now the front of the field, in fact all of the field, is coming on pit road for a change of tires and fuel.
Well, practically everybody will change the outside rubber at least. Obviously they'll all gas up. Some people may try to change all 4 wheels. There's Buddy Baker coming in.
And Richard Petty, his old teammate, right behind him.
There's Cale Yarborough, and there's a bit of chassis tuning. See that guy at the back? He's pushing up the rear spoiler, which will help Cale go through these fast turns.
Richard Petty, winner of 185 races. Earlier, we took him out of the garages into our working area to talk about what's happened. He hasn't won recently. The well-known American columnist Jim Murray has said that what the Yankees are to baseball, Notre Dame is to football, Vince Lombardi to coaching, and Jack Nicklaus to golf, Richard Petty is to stock car racing. It just doesn't seem right, says Murray, to see Richard Petty without a trophy over his head. But for the past better than a year, since the 4th of July, 1977, there haven't been any trophies, Richard. When is this all going to come to an end?
Well, I hope it comes very soon, but it's just been a kind of a deal that things just hadn't been our way. We went good up till July last year, and you know, then all of a sudden we hadn't won any races since then. And we started this year with a new car, and it just didn't seem to work out. And then we changed cars in the middle of the stream, more or less, and you know, we're gaining on it. We're getting a little bit better every race, and in fact, a couple of weeks ago we got close enough when the race was over to argue about who won the race. So you know, it's been a kind of a deal that we knew it would take a little time to get used to the car and get the mechanics used to it and the driver used to it and stuff, but it's coming around real good.
Richard, let me ask you something. They say that in motor racing, the most essential element, besides having a car that really works, is the will, the desire to win. You're many times a millionaire. You've won 185 races, nearly twice as many as anyone else. Has that changed your attitude?
Well, I don't think it has. I look at it from the standpoint that I expect to win more now than I did when I hadn't won very many races. It's kind of a deal that's sort of habit forming, and if you don't win, then it really hurts that much more. Anybody that never won a race can't be as hungry as somebody that's done won a race, because you get the feel of winning, and then that's all you know, and that's all you want to do. And from that standpoint, I don't think it's the wheel as much as it is getting the wheel of the car. If I can get the car to do it, I know the driver can do it.
Well, that's Richard's view of affairs, but meanwhile, I'd asked Morris Petty, his brother, and also his chief mechanic, if he really thought that Richard was putting enough effort into it.
No, he does pretty good. If we could get him into the garage and he'd work more there, we'd be a lot better off.
What do you mean into the garage? Is he late in arriving in the morning?
He does like to sleep.
Then I asked the patriarch of the family, Lee Petty, what he thought of his son's driving.
In fact, it's harder to me because I'm up where I can see what he should do, and a lot of times he don't do what he should do. He goes to a different angle, you know what I mean? And a lot of times I like to get a stick after him.
Well, that's what it's like when you drive with a family. If you lose, you get your head bashed in by your dad. But basically, the Petty family, of course, have been a fantastically successful family unit in racing, and they all pull together, and it must be really great for all of them to work together all the time.
Field pulling out of turn number 4 as we're ready for the race to resume. Cecil Gordon briefly holding the lead. Remember, he pushed Cale Yarborough in those first laps, and Yarborough would have been left out there on the track and would for sure have gone a lap down. Race is underway. And here we are, 3 wide with Donnie Allison of Hueytown, Alabama, thrusting the Haas Ellington car out in front. Dave Marcus going to second. That's Benny Parsons in third. Here's Bobby Allison putting the move on Benny Parsons at turn 2. Allison going for third spot. Number 1. Donnie Allison in first, Dave Marcus in second. It's still Bobby Allison on the inside of Benny Parsons fighting for third. Richard Petty back in fifth, but here he comes to make it 3 wide in the battle for third. Petty going to third. Marcus goes for the lead. Dave Marcus from Wausau, Wisconsin goes out in front by half a car length. 5 automobiles still pressing for the lead. Richard Petty now in third, a dead heat for first. Bobby Allison gets beneath Richard Petty. Here comes this quintet down to finish another lap, and they go 3 wide to the line. Bobby Allison looks like he may be taking the lead from everyone here. It's Bobby Allison, a former winner with a Roger Penske Matador, now going out in front of the LA Times Charities 500. Allison in first, Benny Parsons back to second. Well, we overused the word, David, but this is incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. That, just going through turn 2 there, Donnie Allison and Benny Parsons must have been an absolute lick of a paint away from each other. Look at them all drafting down that back straight.
Donnie Allison to the inside on Benny Parsons. Bobby Allison, his brother, leading. Back to turn 3. The Allison brothers, the Alabama gang, runs 1 and 2.
Bobby Allison still coming off that corner just like he was early on in the race. Comes off the corner very quickly. His brother making ground going into turn 4 there.
That's car number 15, the geometry of Bud Moore. If it's working now, it could work all day. And they sure, with all their experience, could put him in victory lane when it's over. It is a 6-car draft for the lead. Bobby Allison in first, Donnie Allison second, Benny Parsons third in that number 72 car, and then the familiar colors of Richard Petty in fourth. And there's still not room to put your hand down between those cars as they go into those corners, David.
Well, Richard Petty was saying at the beginning of the race that his car was working better now. It has been all through the year, and of course, better than since last July, and he's really hanging in there well. Just look at that leading quartet.
Parsons tried another time. He has fell on ill fortune in the latter half of this season. He gets up inside of Donnie Allison, but can't put him away. Here's Bobby Allison pulling away by 3 car lengths. Look at that dice for second. Robert Vance Allison has a way of getting through corners, which is just completely his. Here's Petty diving to the inside, making it 3 wide for second place. Earlier, I asked Bobby about his cornering technique, how he did it.
Well, I keep my eyes closed as much as I can.
Well, he must have read the Ken Squire Manual of High-Speed Driving as well as me. I thought I was the only one that did that.
Apparently, he read it a little more carefully. He's out in front by 4 car lengths.
Thank you.
Richard Petty second, Donnie Allison running third. Here is Bobby Allison just motoring away down the back straightaway with a pretty good advantage. Richard Petty is in second. Donnie Allison third. More in a moment. The LA Times Charities 500 with Brock Yates and David Hobbs. I'm Ken Squire watching a scorcher of a race as Bobby Allison is out in front of Richard Petty. And it's continued almost since the beginning to be a 5-car battle. There you see 5 automobiles dicing for the lead. Actually, we have 7 cars within a second and a half of each other. Bobby Allison seeking his 51st Grand National win in front. Richard Petty trying to break that losing streak, which has gone 43 races, the same as the number on his car. We have a machine smoldering down here in turn number 1. That appears to be the Oldsmobile of Benny Parsons in trouble.
Yeah, smoking very badly going into turn 1. Let's hope it's not terminal for Benny. There he is going through turn 2 onto the back straight. Smoking a little bit, but still under its own power.
Trying to get back to the pits. Benny Parsons, 1973 national champion. Allison in front. Richard Petty still in second. Another Allison. Donnie back there in third. They're into turn number 3. Bobby Allison, who started winning back in 1966 up at Oxford Plains, Maine. He won his very first Grand National race. And little old Chevrolet is now out in front, holding off Richard Petty still another time.
And Richard Petty still using that high line. Richard really loves those walls from Daytona to Ontario. He's always up there near the wall. You can see quite clearly going through turn 4 how close he was to the wall.
Parsons in the pits, number 72.
They're changing the outside rubber. They haven't got the hood up, so obviously that smoke was nothing to do with the engine. Maybe it was, in fact, a deflated tire.
Winner of 3 races this year out of Riverside, California, not too far from here, as well as Richmond, Virginia, and Darlington. In front, it's still Bobby Allison, who's pulled off 5 wins this year. Richard Petty trying to break that losing streak. Still just 1 car length behind Allison.
Yeah, he's hanging right in there. Of course, there's no real need. There's Benny Parsons just leaving the pits. Everything seems to be okay now. No smoke and everything's going fine. He doesn't want to get a lap down, though.
But he will. He came in very slowly, and here comes the field by him. Allison in first. Richard Petty ensconced in second, and Petty seems to have no desire to move by the leader right now, David.
Well, of course, in the 500-mile race, it's not essential to lead at the halfway stage. It's essential to be around at the end, and that's the main thing. Hang in there. Here's a couple of fans, obviously completely enthralled by what's going out there on the track at Ontario. What are they doing? Who's Lynn?
Tearing off, I think. Here's number 15, Allison, with still the 1 car length advantage in the second turn. Here's a battle for 6th position. That's Lenny Pond, number 54, leading the battle for 6th with David Pearson in 7th, and Darrell Waltrip is in there in 8th spot. Give you a look a little further back in the field. Pearson down low, and he guns down Lenny Pond to take over in 6th and drags Darrell Waltrip along with him into 7th. Wasn't too many years ago, Allison and Petty were the headline stories week after week, a tremendous rivalry. Tracks like Bristol and North Wilkesboro and Richmond, they just battered those cars to pieces on the shorter tracks. Here they are, a Ford, driven by Bobby Allison, leading Richard Petty's Chevrolet car. What a strange thing to say about Richard Petty after all those years he was with a Dodge machine.
Yeah, absolutely incredible for him to change like that. And, of course, it's nice to see that Ford doing so well because people had begun to think that maybe the NASCAR racing was being dominated by one make rather too much, but it looks as if the Ford's coming back.
Another Ford, number 21, Pearson in 6th, is closing on 4th place Buddy Baker, and Dave Marcus, number 2, riding in 5th. And right behind number 21, Pearson, in 7th place, remains Darrell Waltrip in 88.
Darrell's not having such a good day as I thought he would, actually. But on the other hand, of course, he might also be looking at this as a 500-mile race and just waiting his time. There's no good getting too far back.
Here's Pearson down the inside. He's getting under Marcus. Taking one, and he's blowing an engine. David Pearson erupting an engine, and Waltrip nearly drop-kicked him right out of the Ontario Motor Speedway.
Well, that was fantastic because Waltrip was right behind him, gaining ground. And here we see it again in slow motion. Right up behind him, catching him up in the draft. Suddenly, Pearson's engine lets go in the biggest possible way, and Waltrip was unbelievably lucky and drove very well to avoid running into the back of David Pearson.
Marcus on the outside gave Waltrip no place to go. And then he realized it, and he pulled over.
That's when the old reactions work very well, and that's also when the heart drops right into the feet.
You might wonder why early on in the race they all charged so hard. We asked David Pearson the question about that.
So many cars are so competitive and are capable of winning the race. You got to hang with them, and if they run off and leave you, you've lost it. So you got to stick right with them.
That's one of the gambles of motorsport, and he rolled snake eyes to David Pearson this afternoon here in this last race of the 1978 season. Meanwhile, Bobby Allison, seeking his 6th win of 1978, is in front, and chasing his first win of the season, Richard Petty in second, as we see the Pearson crew beginning to roll the hardware back to the garage area.
Well, they're determined not to go home empty-handed, and of course they're stealing someone else's tools, actually.
In 3rd place is Donnie Allison. And there is Leonard Wood talking with David Pearson about what happened.
That'd be an interesting conversation to be in on.
The battle for 4th place. Darrell Waltrip has it. Cale Yarborough has come all the way from last position into 5th to challenge here with Buddy Baker next. Let's go to Brock Yates.
Like a bunch of oil laying on the ground.
Yeah, this is time we did blow the engine. Definitely, it just seemed like everything in it come out. And it was kind of unexpected, just all at once. In fact, as long as I've been driving for them, I have to say that this is the first time I've ever really blown an engine.
Everything just came apart.
Yeah. Now, we have had valve springs to break and push rods to jump out and stuff like that. But as far as actually blowing an engine, this is what I call blowing an engine.
Pearson joined the Wood brothers 6 years ago. First engine he's blown, that's some story. This, too, is a story. 25, Ronnie Thomas, and number 17, Roger Hamby, racing for Rookie of the Year honors, and they're side-by-side for 14th position. That's Jabe Thomas putting out the board to tell his son, Ronnie, to pit, to come in for tires here. That Rookie of the Year battle going right down to the final race. The battle for 4th place. On the inside, Cale Yarborough challenging Darrell Waltrip.
And taking the place away from him. Cale Yarborough has doggedly clawed his way back through this field. He was nearly a lap down at the beginning of this race, and here he is running in 4th spot now. An incredible story. The number 15 car of Bobby Allison sails around this 2.5-mile Ontario Motor Speedway with the advantage. Richard Petty right behind him. 2 seconds back is Donnie Allison in 3rd. Cale Yarborough now in 4th. Waltrip 5th. Baker in 6th. All of these cars are still in the lead lap. We're going to leave you now and be back later this afternoon with more of the most competitive automobile racing in the world.
NFL action begins Sunday with the NFL Today, followed by a full slate of regional games. You'll say, you saw it on CBS Sports.
And we'll be back with the conclusion of the LA Times 500 from Ontario Motor Speedway a little later in the show. We'll tell you a lot more, by the way, of our new look CBS Sports Spectacular that gets underway on January 6th. One feature we know you'll like will be a Fight of the Week. We'll be the only network to deliver a Fight of the Week every week on the new look CBS Sports Spectacular. Well, Bruce Wilhelm is the defending champion, as you know, in our World's Strongest Man competition. But Don Reinhardt currently has a lead of less than 2 points. Today, the 7th event, the wrist roll. Let's go out to Brent Musburger in Universal City, California.
Able to push a 750-pound wheelbarrow uphill, to run 100 feet with a 425-pound refrigerator on your back, to lift a 270-pound barrel. These are just some of the feats of strength which will challenge our strongmen as CBS Sports presents the 1978 World's Strongest Men.
Go against the Soviet Union live in Madison Square Garden on the new look CBS Sports Spectacular. Well, Bobby Allison has the lead and Richard Petty is in second place. And the LA Times 500, the last race on the NASCAR circuit. Right now, let's go back out to California and Ken Squire.
At Ontario, California, these are the current standings in the most competitive automobile racing series of the world, the final race of the season. The Grand National drivers have Bobby Allison in front. Richard Petty is running in second place. Brock Yates and David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire, and this battle has gone on all afternoon between these two old rivals. It's Robert Vance Allison seeking his 6th win of the season. It's Richard Petty deployed in the second position, seeking his first win in a year and a half of exile from victory lane. Back in the back straightaway on this 2.5-mile track, here comes Richard Petty in pursuit, and he's going through to take the lead. Petty is once again out in front of this seesaw battle between himself and his old rival.
He certainly put it to an end, and both these guys are going incredibly well this afternoon.
There's the third place battle. That is Darrell Waltrip, number 88 in third, number 11, Cale Yarborough in fourth. And Yarborough's attempting to change position out here. Let's see if Waltrip can fend him off.
Yarborough seems to have just that little bit more down the straightaway there, and in fact takes away third place from Darrell Waltrip going into turn 3.
Everyone claims that there's just tremendous horsepower out of those Junior Johnson cars that Cale Yarborough is using today, that they can just whistle down these straightaways. Meanwhile, look at this draft between Richard Petty and Allison. Here comes Allison going for first again. He has it back.
Well, this could get monotonous. It could go on like that all afternoon.
That's just a little bit of an idea why they call it the most competitive racing there is. Talk about competitive. Look at that. That's Buddy Baker, number 27, and number 1, Donnie Allison.
Now, that is a 2-car draft turned into a 1-car draft.
Battling for 5th position.
Unbelievably close racing. It really is incredible.
And, of course, we're going to bring it to you live come February 18th from the greatest stock car race in the world, the Daytona 500, right here on CBS.
There's Bobby Allison back in front again. Richard Petty right behind him. Will he get by him again? As I say, this could go on all afternoon, seesawing from first to second position.
That's a battle the folks love to see between two different car makes.
Oh, Richard got it all hung out there. He's obviously got in the wrong place in Bobby Allison's draft, lost some of the downforce on his car, and really got squirrely.
Now here comes the battle for Rookie of the Year. This has gone all afternoon. Number 17, Hamby. Number 25 is Ronnie Thomas fighting there with him. Here's Thomas down to the inside. They are back in 12th position, still wheel to wheel in turn 2. Ronnie Thomas's dad, Jabe, campaigned to number 25 for 2 decades. He's retired now from driving. He's turned the controls over to his son, running for Rookie of the Year honors. And earlier this week, I climbed up in the hauler, the taxi cab, the mobile home for this racing team from Virginia, and went out to the track with them. We interviewed them about racing on their level, and Jabe Thomas shared some thoughts about his son as a race driver on the Grand National Tour.
Well, Ronnie he don't abuse the car, he just abuses my money. And when you go to abusing your money, you might as well be abusing the car. You know, when it takes an extra lot of money. But actually, he's easy on the car. He don't go out and rip it and snort it and tear it up. He takes care of that, but it's taking a lot of money to keep him going.
Now, the way Ronnie runs, how does that compare with the way you ran?
Well, Ken, I feel like it probably, he uses up about 2.5 times what I would. Like tires, I wire tires out, wear them down the inner liners, and then wear a little bit off the tube if I get a change. When a little bit's gone off the new tire, he wants another tire, and throw tube and all the way. If Ronnie does what I tell him to do, Ronnie is going to be a professional and you know, have one of the better rides that can be had if he listens to me. Now, if he goes out here and we run through everything we've got early in the season, in his racing career, if we run through it and have to quit, nobody, he'll never know. Wait just a second. Right here, hold Lee on her. Now that's like finding that bolt right there, Ken, now I'm telling you, now that there's an example of how to make it. That bolt right there would cost you, if you went down here to buy it, it'd cost you 95 cents. But it's a humdinger of a good one, so you seem to pick it up, didn't you?
Ronnie, don't you consider that for what you want to do, you're a pretty lucky guy right now with the kind of deal you got?
You know, I fuss a lot. I guess I come in, you know, and I'm a little mad because here I am running 15th or 20th or 22nd or so along in there, and, you know, I say, well, I want to be running up there with Richard or David or one of those guys, and you look at it that way, but then again, you look at up in the stands, you look at all the other kids my age that says, well, I'd just like to be in that car on the same track with Richard Petty and just to be able to say I've run with those guys. So I guess you know, it's no way to measure, you know, how lucky I am to be in the sport.
Well, there's obviously a very warm relationship in that family, just like the Petty family that we saw earlier on, and maybe one of these days Ronnie will be as successful as Richard.
Meanwhile, Bobby Allison here in the race is pitted. 6 cars running the lead lap. This will put him back in the 6th position, and Richard Petty will inherit first place. Here is Bobby Allison coming back to speed after a very good pit stop for the Bud Moore crew. Cale Yarborough is running in 2nd. There's Cale, car number 11. What a story here. Started 40th today. Had trouble on one of the preliminary laps. He's fought his way back up to contend for the Petty. Richard Petty has blown. Car number 43 running very slowly down the main straightaway. Petty had been deployed in first. He's now out of it. He's going behind the wall, and he will lose his 44th straight race. Richard Petty retiring his automobile. Car grumbling to a stop down here on pit road after making a U-turn, and this will put Cale Yarborough in the lead. Cale from 40th into first. Here in the Los Angeles Times Charities 500, you're following the battle now between the 4th place campaigners. That's Buddy Baker in 4th. Right behind him is Donnie Allison running in the 5th position. What a scramble they're having. Battles up in front, battles further back in the field. That's been the story all day. With Brock Yates and David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire. The field, these two competitors, now coming through turn 4 on this 2.5-mile track. Down into the main straightaway. That's car number 98, Dale Earnhardt, who's a lap down, running with them. Here they are, overtaking about to lap a back marker. Bill Schmidt going into turn number 1. Baker going through, and Baker gets hit. Baker sliding, he's out of control, headed for the infield. Buddy Baker in big trouble, David.
He hung on to that extremely well as he was going around the outside of Bill Schmidt. Schmidt didn't leave him quite enough room. Obviously just clipped the back of Buddy's car and sent him into a very nearly a spin, but he did well to hang on to it.
All right, we're going to get a chance to see that again in replay as they went into turn number 1. Buddy Baker getting himself in trouble while running in 4th place and trying to fend off Donnie Allison, who was running in 5th. Caution is on the track by the chief starter, Chip Warren, as the field motors down onto pit road to take on tires and fuel. Let's look again in replay at exactly what happened in turn number 1 as those cars were barreling in there at about 140 miles per hour.
Yeah, well, there's Buddy Baker leading Donnie Allison into turn 1, going around the outside of Bill Schmidt, who you can see is running about in the middle of the line. Buddy Baker getting near the top edge of the line, and just as he goes down the front, Bill Schmidt's front end just clips the middle of Buddy's car and starts to send him into a spin. Schmidt holds onto his car pretty well, but Buddy's away, but he hangs on. Look at the opposite lock on the front wheel there. You can see how he's turned into the skid, and he manages to keep the thing all together.
So Buddy Baker brings out a caution flag, and this will give an opportunity for all the crews to pull on pit road and take on tires and fuel. So many times we discuss the frenzy, the frenetic activity on pit road, and that's exactly what it is. Here's the Bud Moore crew changing 2 tires. They're going to make a 4-tire change. They'll have him out in about 40 seconds with 4 brand new tires and fuel. Here's Darrell Waltrip coming in. Earlier, he simulated a pit stop for us. Watch this. The jack man, with a specially built jack, has the car in the air with just 6 pulls of the jack. Try that on the road. Lug nuts coming off the front tire and the rear tire simultaneously. Tire carrier brings new rubber around. The lug nuts for the second tire are glued on, so they don't have to go looking for them. The gas man has 11 gallons already in. Starts a second set as they clean off the windshield. And he's away.
Okay, David, they're coming down for a restart. What do you think?
Well, it's very exciting to see Richard Petty out of the race, but boy, it's the usual NASCAR rush and bush out there. They're really having a hell of a time down here in Ontario.
All right, here they come for the green with Bobby Allison, Darrell Waltrip hard at it.
As they stand, it's Bobby Allison in first. Benny Parsons, 2 laps down, is running just in front of him. Actually in second is number 11 Yarborough with a third spot. Donnie Allison, and in fourth is Waltrip, all close together after that pit stop. Now they go into turn number 1. There's Allison, your leader, number 15. Toward turn 2, and a blown engine on rookie Ronnie Thomas, running rookie of the year. The man he's trying to beat is going by him, number 17, Roger Hamby. An anxious Ronnie Thomas fan in the pits. Ronnie Thomas now back in the pits, and his dad is lifting up the hood to see if there's anything they can do for car number 25 and keeping him behind. We have trouble in the back straightaway. Steve Pfeiffer spinning, twirling his automobile around. The front of the field just missing him. The car line paralyzed. This will bring out a caution. Let's go to the pits with Jabe Thomas.
He has to finish 7th to beat us. Now, however, if he finishes 8th or 9th, we'll still beat him by 1 point.
The he Jabe Thomas is referring to is Roger Hamby, trying to defeat Jabe's son, Ronnie Thomas, for Rookie of the Year honors. There's Roger Hamby. Can he do it? We'll find out shortly.
We're here in the desert to prove how much power...
These are the standings with less than 10 laps to go. The LA Times Charities 500 with Brock Yates and David Hobbs. I'm Ken Squire. The field is back under green. Cale Yarborough is leading with car number 11. In the second position, number 15, Allison. Sandwiched in between them is the lap car number 2, being driven by Dave Marcus, and he is down a couple of laps. Headed for the second turn, there is the third place automobile, Donnie Allison, and directly in front of him, Buddy Baker, who spun earlier, back on the track and going well. The fourth place is car number 88, Waltrip. Back straight away, 11 the leader, 15 the challenger, Bobby Allison.
What an incredible story, too, for Cale Yarborough, coming back from 40th position, nearly a lap down at the beginning of this race, and he's fought his way up through, and now he's leading the race from Bobby Allison. These two cars at the moment seem to be dictating the pace of this race. It's going to be an incredibly close finish at the end to see just who pulls it off.
Cale has won 10 races this year, and time after time, when they had him counted out, he came back. An amazing crew. And there's an amazing crew, the Bud Moore people, who have Bobby Allison currently in second place. Remember now, they're seeking their 6th win of the season. And there you see the Cale Yarborough Jr. Johnson crew. First and second place is a tight battle. As they head for the second turn, Allison is making a move on the inside. And there you see it, Bobby Allison once again in front. We've had over 20 lead changes thus far. Bobby Allison pushes the Thunderbird in front, and the Oldsmobile rides in second place down the backstretch.
Bobby Allison's pretty well dictated the pace of this race all throughout, and Cale didn't look terribly competitive at about the midway stage, but he's certainly sprung to life here for these last few laps. It's going to be a dash to the finish, there's no doubt about it.
And there is Darrell Waltrip, still winging his way through traffic. He is caught on some lapped automobiles and trying to work his way around Buddy Baker. Baker won this race a couple of years back, but in the MC Anderson car, things are not going well today. There's Waltrip down the inside. He is in fourth, number 88, unweaving himself, unsnarling himself in traffic.
Darrell hasn't gone quite as well in this race as I thought he might do. You can see the black marks on the wall there where these guys are brushing the wall coming off those turns.
Side by side for the lead. Cale on the inside, and there are 5 laps to go. 5 laps remaining. Cale Yarborough back on the inside, taking the lead. And here comes Allison, dropping even lower. Look at that line.
Yeah, he just let him go by and then just dropped straight down the inside. Of course, you're taking a bit of a risk there because you've got to drive right through the slipstream or the draft, and that can be very unsettling on these 3,800-pound cars.
Just a bit of a wiggle out of turn number 2 on Allison's car, but what a handle that car has today. The tuning of the suspension seems perfect on number 15. Yarborough back. He puts the horses to work, and again they're wheel-to-wheel in turn 3. Still side by side, Yarborough on the inside, Bobby Allison wheel-to-wheel on the outside of the high rim right at turn 4. Now that's close to the wall. Allison back in front. 4 laps to go.
Snapping across the bows of Cale Yarborough there. I'm not quite sure the reason for that tactic, but what it was, he still maintains the lead. Cale is right close behind him through turn 1. Up to the wall. There you can see those marks on the wall where all afternoon people have just been grazing it with those rear tires or front tires or the side of the car.
Here's Yarborough ready to make still another challenge. If it gets close at the end, very close, Bobby Allison, what will your strategy be out here today?
Well, I think it depends on where I feel like I can beat him. If the car's better on the straightaways, then I'm going to wait on him. But if my car's better in the corner, then I think I need to go for broke right as soon as I can, because if we can beat them in the corner and they can beat us on the straightaway, you know, I think that if I ran behind, I'd be taking a chance on using my tires up, you know, and gambling on winning the race rather than trying to take it away from whoever I'm having a race against.
3 laps to go, and what a fantastic duel we have out here in the California sun this afternoon. Down into turn number 1, Yarborough making another move, and Allison closes the door.
Well, this two are really showing their class now. They've absolutely left the rest of the field standing because Cale Yarborough, as I said before, has really come to life. And just look at that through turn 2, right on the back of Bobby Allison.
And energized Cale Yarborough, giving it his all in the back straightaway as the laps are running out. Cale, how are you going to feel when this is over?
Well, you're always tired at the end of 500 miles anywhere, but this racetrack is not as physically demanding as a high bank racetrack, but you'll be tired enough.
I get exhausted just watching them out here in a race like this when it's this intense, David.
Well, it's not as physically tiring as the high bank tracks, as he says, but these flat tracks like this do require a lot of driving skill to get around those corners as quick as these guys are going.
It's just 2 laps, 5 miles to that victory circle here at the Ontario Motor Speedway. And here's Allison drawing away to about a 5-car length advantage, a little more than that in turn number 1 this time.
Now, that's the sort of advantage he's been enjoying all afternoon, but Cale seemed to really come to life. And you see Cale squirrely there. I don't know whether he touched the wall, but he got pretty close to it.
Meanwhile, the front of the field, Allison and Yarborough are back in heavy traffic. There's Cale lapping James Hilton. And here is Yarborough, or rather Allison, just busting through automobiles, picking off 3 cars down the back straightaway. Pulling away and getting an advantage now is Bobby Allison as we head toward the white flag and 1 lap to go. And how many times we've seen it come right down to this, and then the leader come up with some little gremlin in the engine, in the transmission, run out of fuel, and sit on the wayside for the end of the race. Here they are back to the line. I might point out to you as there is 1 lap to go. This is it for Bobby Allison for his 6th win of the season. I might point out to you that among the vanquished in today's race, David Pearson fell by the wayside of the broken engine. Neil Bonnet, last year's winner, fell out. Richard Petty, his engine expired after he made a magnificent effort earlier. Down to turn number 2. Allison really has the old pedal to the metal, David.
Yeah, and even in that traffic, he was using that traffic to the best advantage, drafting behind that guy to just give him that little bit of extra speed down the straight. So he's thinking all the time and working at this win.
Going for his 52nd victory. It makes him 4th in overall career wins, behind only Richard Petty, David Pearson, and Lee Petty. Here's Bobby Allison skirting the final part of the track. He has an advantage of a little over a second now. We still have 3 cars in the lead lap. The automobile of Waltrip has fallen back some here at the finish. We're watching Allison coming to the line. Chip Warren about to extend the checkered flag. A welcome sign is out for Bobby Allison. He has won the Los Angeles Times Charities 500. Allison is your winner. The victory lane will be covered by Brock Yates as Bobby Allison pulls in the Ken Norris automobile prepared by Bud Moore. Let's go down to Brock with the winner.
Bobby, sensational.
congratulations.
Thank you.
It looked pretty easy for a while there about mid-race, and then all of a sudden it got a little tense near the end.
Yeah, you know, caution flag caught everybody up. And that Cale's really tough down the straightaway. He's had a good engine all year long, and he's just really been a lot to handle. But we had him beating the corners today.
You sure had them handled. The Alabama gang outrunning the posse here in the final event of the year. Bobby Allison first, Donnie Allison in third. And now it's just about 6 weeks until the $5 million 31-race tour rolls again, starting at Riverside, California, January 14th, and then on to the Daytona 500, the most competitive automobile race in the world, which you'll see live on CBS Sunday, February 18th.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can't be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound, just watch old bandit run.
From Brock Yates and David Hobbs and yours truly, Ken Squire, our congratulations to the Rookie of the Year, Ronnie Thomas.